On our downloaded template, look for the Boardwalk tab on the ribbon. Click on the tab, and you will see the Download Data button. Click on this button and your data will be downloaded from the Velocity Ledger. If a login pop-up shows up, provide your credentials to continue. A download status bar will pop up. Wait for the template to download completely and the status bar to go away. Once the download is complete, you'll observe that our transaction data has been successfully retrieved from the Velocity Ledger, with formats preserved. Additionally, you'll find extra functionality available in the Boardwalk menu. Under the Welcome section of the Boardwalk tab, you'll find Data Download, which you're already familiar with. The Clear Data button restores the workbook to its original state as it was when downloaded from the portal by clearing all data. The Logout button logs you out of the workbook, requiring you to log in again to perform updates or review changes functions. In the Updates section, you'll find 3 buttons, all of which interact with the Velocity Ledger. The Submit button transfers all changes made in the workbook data to the Velocity Ledger. When submitting data, you can specify the intent of the submission in the Transactions Comments pop-up, as we observed while applying AD group or LDAP settings to the application in a previous session. The Refresh button retrieves any changes that other users may have submitted to the server since the last refresh or download of the current sheet. Refreshing doesn't discard any changes made to the data in the worksheet. As earlier indicated, if your session has been idle for some time, the login window will pop up. Enter your credentials and click on OK. Once the sheet has been refreshed, cells that have new values have comments associated with them with a little red marker on the cell. Hovering over this marker will show the comments, which show the original value in the sheet and the new value from the ledger. The Download Sheet button clears all data in the current sheet of the workbook and downloads the most recent data from the Velocity Ledger. Any changes made to the data before clicking this button will also be lost. In the Review Changes section, we have options to examine changes in a cell, row, or the entire sheet over a specific period. The period can be chosen from a week, month, quarter, year, or customized input. Let's explore how each of these functions works. Let us select the cell E2, where we see some changes were made, followed by clicking on Cell from Review Changes. An activity selection window pops up with the options to select the period. Let's select Month and click OK. A report showing the changes opens in a new tab. This report shows how the values changed over time and who changed the values and the intent, shown in the Comments section. Let us now explore how Row Review Changes works. We are looking for row-level changes for Row 2. An activity selection window pops up with the options to select the period. This time around, let's select Week. We also have the option to select the columns that we want to see on our report. For this time, we will click on Check All to select all the columns. Click on OK to generate the report, which opens in a new tab. The last row shows the data of the row when it was first created. The row above that show the changes in pink for the column transaction amount, which was changed from 74,787.89 to 74,787. The row also shows who changed the values, when, and what the intent of the change was. The topmost row shows the latest values in the ledger. This case, the changes were made to transaction amount, remitter name, and beneficiary name, along with the who, when, and why the change was made. Notice there were 3 changes done together, indicating you can submit many changes together. Let us explore how the Sheet Review Changes work. Clicking Sheet of the Review Changes will start with an Activity Period Selection pop-up, where we will again select Week. A report showing the changes that have been made to the transaction sheet over the course of the past week is displayed in a new tab. This report starts with the creation and subsequent changes to the data listed in the chronological order. Each of the rows have a transaction number associated with them, which can be selected. Columns list the ID of the user who made the change, when the change was made, and the intent. If any rows were added, if any rows were deleted, if any columns were added, any cells updated, and if any formulae were changed. If at any moment of time we want to know what the state of the ledger was, we can select the transaction ID associated, and then select Show Ledger at selected time. A Compare Ledger window pops up with options to see all ledger changes or show rows that were unchanged or changed or were deleted or were added new. For this time, we will keep the Show All Ledger Changes checked. This generates another report that shows us what the state of our transaction table was in the ledger. It will notate the changed cells with a comment. Hovering our mouse over the changed cell will show the update made to that cell, changing the value from 74,787.89 to 74,787. Let's go back to the Ledger Updates tab and see what other reports we can generate. Let us select the first transaction and the last transaction numbers from this report and click on Compare Two Updates. In this case, we are comparing what changed from when the transaction sheet was put in the ledger with the last changes made to it. The Compare Ledger window pops up, and we will keep the Show All Ledger Changes checked. Another report is created which shows all changes between the two transactions. Hovering over these cells will show us the changes made from and made to. These reports are static, meaning they reflect the data as of the time they were generated. However, they can be regenerated at any time. Whenever these reports are generated, the data is fetched from the ledger, providing the latest state. Consequently, these reports can be safely deleted from our workbook and regenerated when needed.